Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for episode 3 of my show here at JAT Design. What I have for you this week is going to be the Creality Ender 3 V3. They did a little bit of an oddness with the naming on this machine. The Ender 3 V3 with no suffix at all is actually their top tier of the V3 series so far. So you have the SE at the bottom, then the KE, which is a very nice clipper machine, and now we have the Ender 3 V3 at the very top of the food chain. Cool little feature of this machine, it is a Core XZ instead of a Core XY. So it is still a bed slinger type machine, but it is not a Cortesian machine. So in other words, it takes essentially the motion system of a Core XY, but it rotates that gantry setup and rotates it sideways and then tilts that tool head down so that the Z and the X are both belted instead of having to rely on the screw design. It is much faster, and how it kind of gains that speed is your Z-hop motions are pretty much instantaneous because it's belt driven instead of relying on a screw. It means that motor is also one with both belts, moving that up and down, etc. You don't have any of the, or you shouldn't have any of the Z wobble or Z variances that a lot of the screw type machines are kind of known for. So anyway, that's the intro here. We'll get to unboxing it. Alright, we're working with pretty limited space, but we'll do best what we can here. Go ahead and open it up. I did just receive this machine today and hoping to get the video out within a day or two here. I know there's not a whole lot of other information or videos out there on this machine yet, so hopefully we'll get you going, and hopefully this can help you kind of make a decision whether you want to actually go with one of these machines or not. I do not have any sponsored videos as my YouTube channel is very new, so these are machines that I bought on my own with my own money. Creality basically has no knowledge of me doing this, and this is all on my own money. So what we got here in the box looks like spool holder right away on the top. Got a nice little quick install guide. A little tiny roll of filament that the Ender comes with. Likely won't be using this at all because I hate using non-spooled rolls. And there also we got the short little PTFE tube and a couple PTFE to wiring clips, and I'm sure we'll figure out what that little cover goes on later. In the box here, looks like there is the toolkit. We got the nozzle cleaner, some hardware, a little bit of zip ties, the tools. In here we do have a nice set of flush cut pliers. It's always handy to have more of these around. I do go through them quite often with as much printing as I do. Looks like we also have a USB stick and some metal grease here. Go ahead and put this down off to the side. Here out of the way, because I have my own tools and I likely will not be using these. Back here. Next in the box, in the back corner, we do have something in an anti-static bag here. Appears to be the screen. Looks extremely similar to the screen that I have on my K1 Max, which is a very nice upgrade. I did have an Ender 3 V2 that was heavily upgraded. I did just sell that machine to help fund this project. and pretty limited on space in my studio / living room, basement, etc. Looks like the other half of the spool holder. Put that together for now. Now, go ahead and lift that away and toss that off to the side. Next in the box, we got a lot more packing, and looks like the upper half of the gantry here. We'll go ahead and carefully lift that up and out of the way. Very nicely set up, a whole lot different assembly process than the old V2s and V1s. It is all one piece, and it is a nice, fairly thick aluminum piece here. Tool head comes pre-mounted on it. You don't have to do any of the belting routing. And it looks like it's going to be an extremely simple assembly process here. Flip it around so you can see the motion system a little bit better. We do have the automatic tensioning, which is incredibly nice. So as this belt wears, it will self-adjust itself, which is really cool on this type of machine. We got the filament run-out sensor here, factory, which is nice. Stepper motors on each side for the belt, and as you can see, you kind of see the belt system there. It does do a little cross here, and then this is the, looks like the homing sensor up here, so it'll home itself up there. The other cool thing about this over some of the other models, including the, I believe the KE and the SE both do not have this feature, is this is an actual auxiliary cooling fan, as well as the tool head fan and another part cooling fan. Overall on the bottom here, this does come with the tri-metal, I believe it's a tri-metal hot end or nozzle, and the cooling blows out from the bottom and both sides, so it's a full 360 cooling, which even you don't get on the K1 series until you get into the K1C. So this should help improve bridging and overhangs quite significant. So I'm going to go ahead and put this down out of the way. So I got the filament, basically guide they had on the machine. Don't know if you use it, but pretty cool feature they had. Power cord. This is packed in here quite well. Very impressive for a Creality machine. This is probably much better packed than even my K1 Max was. So there should be no worries about getting a damaged machine with as well as this thing is packed in here. Carefully pull this up and out because all the wires are attached to it. There's another piece in here for that filament thing, spring. Looks like that is it. So I will get this box out of the way, and we'll take a look at this motion system. We got very heavy rods here, linear rods, instead of the linear rails, and no more V-wheels at all on this machine. That is the biggest thing I hated on my V2 was the V-wheels, and I couldn't get rid of them fast enough. I had linear rails on my V2, and it helped a lot. And I always wished that I could have gone to a rail system or a rod system on that machine, and just didn't have the time, money, or power to do that at the time. So now that these come with the factory, I figured it would be a great time to upgrade that machine far more than I could. So very, very heavy rods. It does come pre-installed with a textured PEI sheet, which is incredibly nice. Motor is on the, I believe, the front of this machine. As you can see, it actually sticks out of the bottom a little bit here. So if you're doing this on any type of a cloth type surface, try to remember that this does get hot. So don't have this over something that will melt. Bed slides, absolutely amazing. Super smooth. Another thing over here is we do have the voltage switch. So we want to make sure that is what you are, whatever you're local with, whether you're on 120 or 240. Looks like it, or 230. Looks like it does come factory preset at 230. So you want to take a screwdriver, put it in there, and either leave it at 230 if that's what you are, or I'm going to flip it to 115 because I'm in the US here and that's what I run off of. We do have the wiring plugs for the motor on this side, and looks like one other plug for the motor on this side over here. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick cut, get the other piece back up here, and we'll get to assembling it. Alright, I got everything laid out here and we'll get to assembling this machine. One thing I highly recommend, I do have these Wura brand Hex Plus tools. Highly, highly, highly recommend these if you do not have an upgraded set of Allen wrenches yet and you're still using the tools that come with some of your machines. These are absolutely amazing. They have stopped me from stripping out so many more Allen keys than I can even imagine how many I went through before compared to after I got these. The quality is absolutely amazing on these. So much easier to find which ones I'm looking for. What we're going to need is the 2.5 millimeter and the 3 millimeter to assemble this machine. So in that toolkit there is a little bag of screws that you will need, and also in the upright here we do have some screws on the right side that will be for the mounting of the spool puller. So first, make sure you get your switch into the right position. If not, bad things will happen. Basically, it just slides straight down into the machine. It is a tight fit, but it fits very snugly and very nice. So looks like the majority of what we're going to be using is the 2.5 millimeter, pretty standard. So go ahead and put these screws in. There's 2 in the front on each side, and as always, screw them in, but do not tighten them yet until you have all of your screws in place, because if you tighten it and you have a little bit of misalignment, it is a nightmare to have to go back through and loosen everything up that you thought you were done with and have to start over. And after I get these started, I will turn it and show you guys the screws here. As we turn this, you can see the 2 screws here that I had to put in, and there is 2 on this side that you can't see. Let's turn this a little bit more. These are the 2 screws that the spool mount will go onto. I like to just put the 3 millimeter in there, just tighten it up real quick, make sure that's something that's not going to come loose on you and fall off down the road. So the other thing, very carefully here, I like to lay my machine on the side instead of on the back where the wires are. So we're going to go ahead and lay that on that side. And we do have 2 more screws on each side on the bottom. And that is going to be basically the entire base assembly of the main part of the machine. And then we will have a little bit of wiring to do here. Alright, now that I got all the screws into place, what I'm going to go ahead and do is go through and just snug them up. As always, with any hardware on a 3D printer, don't over tighten them or you're going to start stripping stuff out. Even though this is much higher build quality than we've seen in the past out of Creality and a lot of other brands in general, it's just a good idea to not overdo it, or you're not going to have a good day. Alright, and then I got the bottoms in. Go ahead and turn that back up so I can see what I'm doing. And finish tightening these four up. I'll be back with you in a second. Alright, so now that all those are tight, just go ahead and make sure you still got all your motion. Everything feels pretty good. Alright, so now we're going to go towards the back of the machine here. Make sure all your wires are clear and out of the way. You're going to have the motor connector over here. It will only go one way. Snap that down into place carefully. And then you do have the sensor wire that runs down all the way on the side of the machine. And one more plug here. Be very careful with this one because it is a pretty small plug and very brittle connector. Get the motion system plug on this side, plug that in, and then next this will come up. Have the long one that goes to the print head. Line that up and it snaps in quite nicely. And then we will have the plug for the runout sensor. So we're going to go ahead and plug that in also. Now these wires are pretty loose right off, but next we're going to put the PTFE tube in here. And it is pre-cut to length, so you do not have to worry about that. Plug that in, plug that in. Kind of run this up together. Other nice feature is this little bracket right here. Kind of see there, I'll add a little photo. Does have a wire snap built into it, so that wire kind of has a guide. You can zip tie these together if you want. I'm not going to zip tie them. Piece that came with it in this little bag. Did have a couple wire snap clamps so that we can clip onto the wire here and then put the PTFE in it. One thing I did not notice, this wire crimp is closed. So you do have to run the PTFE tube into that crimp beforehand. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're just going to go ahead and slide all three in there. Go ahead and use the means are included. So we'll slide those three down in there, put that PTF tube in, and we'll do one up towards the front, one right in the middle, and the other one about halfway to the runout sensor there. Keep everything nice and aligned and up out of the way. Next thing we're going to do here is take the spool holder, put it off in there, and push it down. Now on this one, it does work either way. You can put it on the front or the back, but the way the tube is ran here, you can really only put it in the back to use this machine effectively. So it does click into place and lock into place. It is designed so the spool wraps long ways about back and then up into this runout sensor. Very nice setup, and it will work quite nicely with how I have my filament set up here. I likely won't be using this, but this setup is almost perfect and very close to how I had my V2 set up. So very nice feature that is already that way. Make sure your bed cable is free and not tied up with this stuff here. And also make sure this is free, because you got to remember this does go up and down. One thing I'm seeing that I'm not a big fan of so far This wire is pretty tight when it's all the way up, so make sure you pull this down and set that correctly before you go do your first big tall print or something like that, or you're going to have some issues with the machine fighting this cable. Now that we're assembled here, we can kind of see how this sensor works here. It does have a little red nub down here where when this runs up, it clicks it, and then it will home over and click that sensor that way also. So it will always home up top there and back, and then it will continue to go down and then do your bed leveling and stuff. Super nice thing is it's completely automatic on this machine. There is no manual leveling to do. With the way the rod setup is, very straightforward, super easy to use, and that is most of it. We'll go ahead and install the machine, or install the screen on the machine. Alright, that's it. Now I do have the Creality Nebula camera coming for this. Not including it in this review as I don't have it yet. It got delayed in shipping a little bit, so I will not be seeing that until tomorrow. And I wanted to go ahead and get this video out for you guys so you have all the information you need as soon as we need it. The other thing to do here, this little piece, is for up here on this wire to hold it back. It has a spot in here to run the zip tie through, so to not put any strain on the connector. Fold that down, put that there. We'll go ahead and use their little side cutters. Turn it there, off to the side, and then this snaps in. Holds that back, keeps it nicely out of the way so it doesn't get up into the belt system. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get this machine plugged in. We'll go ahead and do the initial calibrations and get our first print. Alright, now we're plugged in. I'm going to go ahead and switch it on. Never seen this feature before. It's got a sweet little backlit Creality logo here. Just adds a nice little feature to the machine. So we got the Creality screen starting up here. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust it so you guys can see what I see here. So startup doesn't take too long. Go ahead and select English if you're English. I have red. You can scroll through it. I'll totally read it later. And select my network. I am going to go ahead and do that now. Obviously, I'm not going to let you guys see what my network and password is, but I got it entered here. And we're going to go ahead and log into it and go next. We're going to set our time zone, which I am Central Standard Time. Area, definitely not in China, so we're going to go ahead and select International and go next. And it says, welcome to our self-check process. Please place the printing platform. The self-check process is expected to take around 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and do the self-check. I'll let it do its thing here. I'll give you a little bit of time lapse, not make you guys sit through that. So we've got the completed initial test here. A couple nice things I noticed and a couple things I've already noticed that I don't like about how it's initially set up. Nice thing, it is quiet in the self-leveling process, etc. The input shaping is probably one of the loudest machines I've ever heard. It is a little rattly. I don't know if that's something on my table or exactly what. It was a little bit of an annoying sound in the process. Other than that, it's not too bad, especially with my K1 Max running in the background here. Number 2, the spool holder. As you can kind of see as it was doing its thing, I did put the spool on in the process. The cable here, you have to make sure that you're inside of the cable. Otherwise you're going to cross that up, and as it goes up, it's actually going to mess up your filament going in. Number 2, you can have the filament set pretty good while it's down here low. But while it goes up to the sensor up here and then drops back down, it unspools this. Now there's really not much you can do with the way it is. I really wish they would have done something similar to what Bamboo Labs have done with their A1 AMS light system, where it kind of auto retracts the spool. And I'm sure there will be mods. If there's not, I will make one, where you can put one of those AMS light spool inserts on so that it can auto retract. Because if it doesn't, you're going to have to be a mess with the spool on your start of every single print, especially if you're dealing with a new roll. Because in that process of it coming back down, it unspooled filament off to the side, and you're going to get a tangle right away. So in my opinion, that's a pretty poor design choice right off the bat. So keep that in mind. You will likely want a solution for that. In my normal setup, that likely won't be a problem. But in my experience with V2 and stuff like that, it never had to go all the way up and then back down. So, it's pulling out filament, and then it has to push down filament and it's got to go somewhere. So normally that is the path of least resistance, and likely not where you want it unless you have something to move the spool back as it comes back down. So that'll have to be something that gets solved going forward. The bed leveling process is extremely fast. I did like that it moves quickly from point to point. It takes significantly less time than the old V1 did. Now, I do have a decibel meter here running. Now the fan is at idle here. So pretty close to ambient to what it is in my house generally with the K1 running in the background. So this machine itself is likely putting out mid to low 50s. As I get closer to my K1 there, it does put out around 65 at idle. So most of that noise is coming from the K1. It is not coming from this machine. I will get a better test as I go through and edit my video and I get my K1 to stop to see kind of what it does at idle. The other thing I did in that time, and it looks like it took exactly 15 minutes, which is pretty nice. I did clean off the upper rail here with some IPA 99% purity. Reason being, the upper rail here is a graphite bushing, but the lower one is a linear bearing. So keep that in mind. Bushing on top, bearing on bottom. It's a little odd that they changed it from 1 to 1, but this one will not need, and you do not want to use grease. You can use a little bit of light oil and wipe it on there very thinly. The bottom one, you'll want to grease periodically. So yeah, let's go ahead and get this filament fully loaded in the tool head and get printing with our first print, what I have for our first print is a CR PLA wood filament. I have not dried this filament, and I've had it for about 4 or 5 months, so it should be completely fine. But I figured it'd be cool just to do a wood filament. It means that we already do have a hardened nozzle in there to start with. So let's get to that. Alright, we're going to slow this video back down here a little bit so you can kind of see it printing at real time. So far, decibels have gone to a max of about 75. I have seen it peak at 80 once or twice, but not really. So 75 is pretty realistic. So far, what I've noticed on this benchy, now mind you, this is old wood PLA. So it's definitely not something that is meant for a speed benchy. It is doing incredibly well. There's a little bit of issues down on the initial bow, but it's a 13-minute benchy. So at least that's what it says it's going to be. We'll see how true that is. Very impressed so far. It is fairly quiet. Especially compared to my K1 Max. It is a little bit louder than the A1, especially the motor in the fast motion. Though I do expect them to release some sort of motor cancellation or something like that in the future to quiet that down a little bit. Overall, pretty impressed with the machine so far. We're going to go ahead and speed it back up and let it finish. Alright, and there we have our benchy, ending in at exactly 13 minutes from the start of the actual print, not including the calibration, etc. Yeah. So, also keep in mind here that this file is the file that came on the printer, and it is obviously very heavily optimized for the Creality's Hyperline filament. So this is definitely not the optimal filament to use for this. Bed adhesion was quite well. On the bottom here, we actually have pretty decent on the letters. So you can read most of it. A little bit of issue right there. Now, after I re-downloaded the new firmware, I did not recalibrate, so that very well could be a little bit to do with that. The hole in the back is quite round. The letters in the back are not quite legible. There is a little bit of a seam line there, nothing too major. The side of the hole is flat and smooth. I'm not really seeing any banding or artifacts. Now on the hole here, we do see a little bit of overhang issues there. But again, this is filament that has sat out in open elements for quite some time. So it's really kind of expected, especially being a speed benchy with wood filament. It's honestly quite impressive. Now on the top layers here, they do look quite well down inside the boat there. As far as the bridging goes there, we do have a little bit of a bridging issue. Again, I would call that more in line with the filaments problem than the issue with the machine. I'll probably try another one down the road with, you know, actual hyperfilament and kind of see how that goes, or different filament that is dry. Now in the window, just a single little blob hanging down would clean up extremely easy. The smokestack turned out absolutely flawless, as one of the more beautiful smokestacks I've seen on a benchy. Clear up on top, good quality. Overall, the quality around the trim of the door is extremely sharp and good. In the big square window, we do have quite a bit of a sag there. Again, likely due with the filament. Now the bridging on the inside on the roof looks flawless. So why it had issue here, but not on the top, I'm not really sure. But it is there. Overall, extremely nice quality benchy, and very happy with the first print. Again, noise level with the cooling fans running, looks like we're a little over 60, which is a little bit more than ambient was prior to the machine running. We'll go ahead and flip it off here and see what the decibels runs. Low 60s, so it is fair to say the machine is running a close to 63, 64 at idle as it's cooling down. Idle here without the cooling fans running, we're back down to basically the sound levels that my K1 puts out. So overall, very happy with this printer so far. Very glad I got it. It will be a very nice upgrade for my V2. Gonna go into kind of a overview after it, and be right back with you. All right, back with you here for the overview. A couple quick things on this machine. I did get a 15% off through Creality Store and their whole upgrade special they had going on. And I did buy the Nebula Cam. Total was around $390. Normally this printer is going to be $389 according to their website. So it's not too expensive, but it is quite a big step up from even the KE. But this should be a much better printer. It is full clipper. It is rootable. The motion system is much better. No rails, it's all rods. The speed system is quite a lot better on this machine. Even during this first little test print, I could see the Z-hop motions were incredibly faster than any of the other screw machines I've had, including the K1 series. So prints should be pretty close. As far as being able to do a 13-minute benchy as well as this thing printed with wood filament of all things is extremely impressive. I will obviously not be running this machine near those speeds normally in my day-to-day printing. I do have about 100 and some odd hours in the next 2 weeks planned to be running on this machine strictly. So in a couple weeks I will do an update video of life with the V3 after a couple weeks, and then I will also do another video a few months down the road to see how well it's holding up, what I've had to do to it, which, looking at the build quality of this machine, is likely going to be clean the rods, clean the bed, and go from there. Things you may not know about the printer. The nozzle, it is what they're calling the unicorn nozzle. There is not currently any aftermarket nozzles that I'm aware of out there that are not Creality branded. There is 0.4, 0.6, and 0.8 that I have seen available, but not on the Creality store quite yet. They have been through another site, I can't remember what it was, but they were Creality branded, if that means anything to you. Someone obviously made the nozzle for them originally, so that's likely who's selling it. Screen interface is extremely nice. It's going to be extremely familiar if you have a K1. The load system is going to be the same. Again, the spool from coming up and down, you may have to watch this spool unwind itself, so you may have to keep an eye on it when you go to start your prints. It will be a little bit of a hassle if you're used to some of the other style machines nowadays, but it will be quite an easy fix. Motor noise, as of now, is the loudest part of the machine. The only times I was getting 75 decibel reading was in fast motions. The cooling fans are not excessively loud, and it is quieter than the K1 series for sure. So that is one thing. That is a nice improvement even from the K1 series. I do not have a K1 Max, so I can't compare it directly to that. But as well as this is cooled, I see it as an actual improvement over the K1, having these multiple fans and stuff on there. That is the basic gist of the machine. The build plate size 220 by 220 by 250 high. So pretty standard as far as your Ender series goes. And actually 10 millimeters larger than the KE, because the KE was limited to 240, where the SE still had the 250 height build volume. It will now be my smallest machine, as I have a Bamboo at 256 and the K1 Max at 300. I will have another 300 build volume machine soon, being the Arco by Frozen. Very looking forward to that machine, but it's going to likely be June or July before I have a video out for that machine. But yeah, that's the basic gist of the video. Hopefully see you guys in a couple weeks for the update, and I'll have some time lapses and whatnot of some prints going on and some final results of those prints, so you can see the quality that this machine can do, hopefully can do, I should say. Not sure what the next video next week will be, but I'm sure I'll find something in the process. Either a life with the A1 or a life with the K1 Max after 6 months, one of those two. If there's anything else you guys want to see, I'm very open to ideas, so feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, let me know how you like the video. If there's anything you'd like me to do different in my videos as far as the unboxing stuff goes, or any technical information that you'd like me to add. Let me know what you guys like to see, because I'd love to put out videos that you want to see. Yeah, please leave me a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time at JAT. Thanks.